I want to welcome to our third training, Critical Decision Points for Suicide Prevention Among Achievers. It's a hard title. I know that, I understand that. But I want to share with you step number 3. We've covered step number 1 and 2. Step number 1 is thought impulse, precipitated by some event that happens, puts the achiever in a dark frame of mind. Step number 2 is contemplation. They begin to think about it more and more based on them feeling that their life is hopeless, they don't have a sense of purpose, their life has no meaning. They begin to contemplate means by which they may consider taking their own life. That's step 2. First step, second step, 1 and 2, we may not be aware of. Third step is the favor that the achiever does for us, for you. I refer to you as the observer. That is expression. The achiever expresses to someone that they care about, that they have confidence in, that they're having suicidal thoughts. That is the first exposure to their weakness that they're allowing others to come into, to be able to see. What happens with an achiever, and I have experienced this, is that because we know them to be a high-performing personality, because we know them to be a mover and shaker, because we know it's someone who gets things done, who takes things seriously, we immediately assume that because they've overcome other obstacles and challenges in their life, they're going to overcome this, whatever it is. And we dismiss it. That's the first reason we miss the expression. The second reason we miss the expression is because we think it's step 1. We think they just came up with the thought, expressed it, all in one time. Not the case. They've thought about it, thought impulse. They've contemplated the means, contemplation. They're expressing it to see several things. First is what your reaction is going to be. Whether you're shocked, whether you respond, whether you say something to them, whether you ask them a question, whether you go deeper, whether it's okay. But the expression is there. Here's the third reason why we as the observer will not act on that. The first is because we think they're going to get over it. The second reason was because we think that's step 1. The third is because we feel disqualified. We don't feel qualified to help them, move them, guide them through whatever dark dungeon that they're experiencing. And if you ever had self-destructive thoughts, when you're considering taking your life, you know how dark the dungeon can be. It's pitch blackness. You can be around a group of people and feel by yourself. It's loneliness, it's isolation, it's mental, emotional pain, it's emptiness that they feel, but they're expressing it. Their expression is a favor to us because it gives us the first chance to do something about it. In a moment, I'm going to share with you a few questions you can ask them. Let's move on to step 4. Step 4 is resolution. Step 4 is the reason why we should not take it lightly when they express they're having suicidal thoughts. Why is that? Because they are an achiever. And an achiever will not make an expression and leave it open. It will not go away. They will make a decision, they will resolve to either dismiss the thought with your help or with their own thinking, or they'll decide to resolve to follow through. But the expression is not left open. One form of expression that you see that they're resolved to step 4, that they resolve to move forward, is if they begin to say goodbye to those they love. Tell them that they love them. I know that's what I experienced with a good friend of mine who took his life. He went to religious services. He was a leader in the religious group. He began to say goodbye to everyone. And a week so later, took his life, totally surprised. But his wife sensed something was wrong to a degree that she had never seen before, and asked him, she says, are you thinking about committing suicide? He said no. They had been married 30 years. He had never lied to her, except for that time. He lied to her. And in his case, taking his own life, he felt was a noble thing to do because he had gotten to circumstances where someone betrayed him, and it put his family and his future in a place that was so dark he could not see that he could ever get out of it. That's probably not the case with you. You're probably in maybe your teens, or you may someone in their 20s, in their 30s. Their whole life is ahead of them, and something has happened and they are considering taking their own life. Expression is them expressing it to you. The reason why they express it to you is because deep down inside, they know you care about them enough to do something. Then they resolve either to let it go, to move forward. Here are the questions that you can ask. And they sound counterintuitive, but it's a question you have to ask because the emotional brain, alarm system, logical brain, reasoning brain, you have to ask them to kind of break them out of the thought pattern, the panic thought pattern, or they have to execute a decision immediately. When do you plan on making a decision about it? If they express it. So when do you plan on making a decision whether you're going to move forward with taking your own life or not? That will surprise them. Well, let me see. And reason we don't want to ask that question is because we don't want the answer. They may actually have an answer. If they have an answer, the next question is, can you give me a day? Can you give me some time to kind of help you move through this? Make it through. Ask them. That's going to be the yes. It's going to be a no. Here's why that's important. Here's the third thing you can say while I share with you why that's important. Do you, whoever you are watching this, do you know more today than you knew 2 years ago? Answer is probably yes. If you can go back and talk to the version of yourself from 2, 3, 4 years ago, with the problem that version of yourself had 2, 3, 4 years ago, could you help them walk through whatever the problem was based on what you know now? Usually the answer is yes, because as time goes on, we look back, hindsight is 20/20, we see the problem that we faced that was huge. We got more experience now, more knowledge now, we can know how to fix that, even if we would just dismiss the problem or the source of the problem. True? True. Then do you think that 2 or 3 years from now, whatever you're experiencing now, whatever the person that we love who expressed that they're going to take their life, whatever they're experiencing right now, do you think in 2 or 3 years from now, they will have figured out a way to overcome it? The answer is yes. So then the question is, can you give me more time? Because we don't have 2 or 3 years from now. But I may be able to find someone who can help you work through this right now so that it is not as dark as you see it as being. Here's a principle I want to share with you. I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. I've read the Bible 16 times. That's because at one time I was a really devout religious person. In the book of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon wrote this, one of the wisest kings who ever lived. Here's what King Solomon said. He said, in Ecclesiastes, he said, there is hope for whoever is among the living. As long as you're alive, there's always hope. Regardless of how hopeless, dark, meaningless you feel your life is right now, there is always hope among the living. Here's what he said next. He said, for a live dog is better off than a dead lion. So if you feel like you're a dog right now, you feel like whatever the low is that you feel, you're still alive. Share that with them. Because sometimes what you say next after they express themselves, that they're having suicidal thoughts, can reset them in a space where they are willing to give themselves time, give you time to find help for them. The next thing you have to share with them, if they seem pretty dark, pretty deep down, tell them, if you decide to take your life, I'm going to work to help you through this. Tell them this. Sounds counterintuitive. I'm going to forgive you. People are like, forgive me for what? Because I have to forgive you for taking out of my life someone that I love and care about if you take your life. You have to share something with them that gets them out of the mental space of being self-absorbed in their own space. Because looking at themselves, they don't like what they see. Looking at you, if they've expressed it, they like what they see. An achiever, a leader, a contributor will make a decision for someone that they care about, someone that they know cares about them, even though they don't want to be bothered with themselves anymore. Tell them, I'll forgive you. Here's something else I want to share with you that I'm going to share here. I'm going to also share in the last video, is that when a child takes their own life, no matter how old the child is, because once a parent, always a parent, when a child takes their own life, it puts the parent in the crisis of forgiveness. Why? Because as parents, if our children do something that's counterproductive, that's just whatever, in their life, we're mad at them. They do something and, they take the car, they're gone, we think something happened to them, we've discovered nothing happened to them, we're mad at them, but we're happy that they're okay. When a child takes their own life, does not give their parent an opportunity to help them work through it, it puts the parent in a crisis of forgiveness because the parent still feels the same emotion of irritation that they would do that. At the same time, for the parent to heal, they have to forgive them for what they've done. It is a crisis. The parent gets angry, feels guilty about being angry, feels guilty that they did not do more. That's the way we as parents are. That crisis of forgiveness, we have to go through the stage of depression, and then you get to forgiveness. But it's a crisis the entire time. Those who are not parents that lose someone who's an achiever, everyone that knows them, it puts those people, it is a traumatic life event for them. It's not massive failure. Massive failure is it happened. Traumatic life event involves you. And it disturbs your balance, your equilibrium, your entitlement, who you are, your friendship, and your entity, how people view you. Those three things, components for an achiever. That's what a traumatic life event is. It is a traumatic life event for everybody that loved that person, no matter how old they were, that took their life. And the younger they are, if they execute the decision to take their life, the more painful it is. So when they share with you that they express to you that they're having deep, dark, suicidal thoughts, ask them, when do you plan on making the decision? Can you give me more time to work through this, help you work through this? Do you know more now than you did 2 years ago? Yes. Well, do you think 2 years from now you'll know more than now? The answer is yes. Obviously, give me more time. When my third book is released, it's called Saving Brooklyn, Critical Decision Points for Suicide Prevention Among Achievers. If you want, you can just put the link, and when I finish it, because I need to add another section to it, I'll let everybody know and I'll get it sent to you. It's gonna be a full training book. I've lost 4 people in the past, since 2010, to taking their own life. 2 of them were younger than 30 years old, beautiful people. Now that has to stop. There's never gonna be enough therapists to get this thing that's happening under control. Social media has a positive, but the negative counteracts the positive, especially among those who are addicted to it, destructive. So you, as the observer, this is what I want to, not the book, I want to sell you on being willing to be there, having the confidence, knowing that if a person expresses it to you, they put their confidence, their trust in you, and knowing that you can help them move through it. And hopefully some things I've shared with you will give you the tools to help you help them move through it. Because they have their whole life ahead of them. There is hope for whoever is among the living. Next video, I'll do step 5 and the consequences of step 5, painful consequences, step 5. I want to wish you all the blessings and success you deserve.